For years now, there's been a movement called Release the Snyder Cut. This movement's sole purpose was to get the Zack Snyder version of Justice League made. A lot of people make fun of Justice League, mostly because it's not a very good movie. But there's a strong, very, very strong movement of people that say, the Zack Snyder version would have been better, or we'd at least like to see the Zack Snyder version. If you don't know, he stepped away from the movie due to a tragedy in his family, which brought in Josh Whedon to complete the movie. And that led to probably, I would say, not the best version of the film. It's entirely possible that Zack Snyder's version is much better. I think at least maybe it's worth seeing. Now, I wasn't the biggest fan of Batman versus Superman. I didn't think it was a very good film. Man of Steel was okay in my opinion. I don't think it was that good, but it wasn't terrible. So I'm curious to how this will turn out. But at the end of the day, I think it's pretty significant that a movement of fans were able to get this done and show enthusiasm for it. Enough enthusiasm that they're going to spend $20 million something. That's not official, I believe. I think that's just what's being thrown around, or at least Zack Snyder said at one point it would cost. That would be the cost for this to get made. But the movement of fans was strong enough for them to say, okay, let's do it. And what's even better about this is, for the longest time, executives, people at DC Comics or DC Studios or Warner Brothers or wherever would say, that's not true. This film does not exist. There is no such thing as a Snyder Cut. It's fake. It's phony. It's a lie. It's not a lie. It's real. And they admit it, and it's coming. So much crazy stuff is attached to this. They're going to bring back actors and actresses and get the old gang back together, per se, and make this film happen. Like, I don't think this has ever happened before. There's been other instances where directors have been fired and they've replaced them. Star Wars is a good example of that. You can look to the trash bucket known as Solo, a Star Wars story. That had a director fired, and they brought in a new director. I think that's one of the reasons why that movie is also a pile of trash. When you do this, it usually creates problems when you change teams, right in the middle of something. And that's what happened with Justice League. It happened with Superman 2. That's another good example, the old Christopher Reeve movie. If you don't know the story behind that, Superman and Superman 2 were largely shot together. And, I think there might have been a little bit of a break there. They came back very quickly to at least start shooting Superman 2. Something like that. And Christopher Donner ended up leaving, and then they brought in the team that would go on to be attached to the Superman movies there on out, Superman 3 and 4. Not very good movies. Superman 2 is what it is, but that's another example. That's why there's a Richard Donner cut. Unfortunately, that movie didn't get the same treatment as, not everyone's around and so old, but he did what he could with it. There's very big differences between the Donner cut and the theatrical version of Superman 2. That's kind of what's going on here with Snyder's cut, except Snyder is fortunate enough that everyone is still alive, and it's not old. The movie's not so old that they can't bring people back to finish scenes. It's crazy. This is the first time something like this has ever been done, as far as I know. And it's all thanks to you people, the fans. You guys made this happen. The story behind this movie is insane. They can almost make a documentary about this, and I think that they will probably make a documentary to go with the film on how they're doing this, the things that led up to it. It'll all be on HBO Max. HBO Max is a viable platform that I think will be a Netflix slayer. Well, at least so strong it'll be able to stand next to Netflix, which a lot of other streaming sites can't say they can do. I think Netflix, HBO Max, Disney Plus, and Hulu, which are the same thing. Hulu and Disney Plus are kind of two versions of the same thing. I think those will be the only streaming platforms that survive. I think everybody else will just roll into one of those. They're the only ones that seem viable enough to me. Apple TV doesn't seem viable enough to me. CBS All Access is definitely not viable. The only thing they have going for them is that garbage Star Trek stuff that they've been putting out. So, yeah, this is insane and pretty crazy. I think everyone that's believed in this Zack Snyder movement should pat themselves on the back, because you guys made this happen. You really did, and it's because of you guys that they're going to bring everybody back and sink possibly 20 million plus into this. It's wild stuff. HBO Max will debut the project in 2021, possibly in a 4-hour director's cut or in 6 TV-style chapters, as the Helmer gets the gang back together with the original post-production crew to score, cut, and finish visual effects. It was very early on a Monday morning in November when director Zack Snyder and his wife and producing partner Deborah Snyder received a call from their agent. Let's be a bit more precise. It was 7 a.m., but more importantly, it was the day after the second anniversary of the release of Justice League, the DC superhero movie that Snyder was forced to exit due to a family emergency, which was then substantially reshot and retooled by replacement director Joss Whedon. In the time since its release, something unusual happened. A growing movement of fans rallied by the hashtag Release the Snyder Cut and called, agitated, petitioned, even bought a Times Square billboard and chartered a plane to fly over a banner over a Comic-Con for Snyder's release to be for Snyder's version to be released. And on the film's second anniversary, the hashtag had its biggest day ever, with even the movie's stars, Gal Gadot, Ben Affleck, adding their voices on Twitter. Jason Momoa actually said release the cut again. That's Aquaman, if you don't know. He went on Twitter and said it like 2 days ago, which is funny. Interesting story. I was at C2E2, one of the only cons that actually got to happen this year. And I went to the Jim Lee drawing Q&A, because this was right after Dan Didio was fired from DC Comics, and I wanted to specifically hear about that, and he came out and said, well, he's sole publisher now, and so on and so on. And somebody actually in the Q&A asked him, hey, what do you think about the Snyder Cut? And he gave a very political answer. Like, yeah, it's ever great for fans, and I think, fans having something to talk about is great. Now, what's funny is, if they knew this was going on back in November, then he did know. And I guess kudos for him for giving a good answer. A lot of people probably wanted to talk about this and couldn't talk about it. So here, the morning after, was their agent saying that Toby Emmerich, chairman of Warner Brothers Pictures, was acknowledging the movement and, more importantly, was willing to accede. This is real. People out there want it. Would you guys ever consider doing something? Was what he was asking, Snyder recalls. The answer to his question, a whispered about secret for months, was revealed Wednesday when Zack Snyder confirmed at the end of an online screening of his 2013 movie, Man of Steel, that his version of Justice League was indeed real, and that it will be coming to HBO Max and Warner Media digital streaming service, launching May 27th, and is expected to debut in 2021. So, May 27th is the big day for HBO Max. I'm eagerly awaiting it. I can't wait to see what their format looks like. I have the current version of HBO's streaming, and it's very barren. It's a very, very poor service. I'm really excited about the revamped version of their streaming network, because there's a lot of good stuff in HBO's catalog. I particularly got it a long time ago so I watched Game of Thrones. I think like most people. And then I canceled it. And then I picked it up again last month so I could watch Chernobyl, which is a great show, by the way. Very, very great show. Highly suggest watching that. So I said, well, HBO Max is coming. I might as well just keep it because I really want to see, what they have on there. I'm pretty excited to see this new streaming service. I think it's going to be really good. I think it's going to be a very, very good streaming service. I think you're going to see Warner Brothers stocks go up from it. Or no, excuse me, AT&T's stocks. It is currently unclear what form Snyder's Justice League will take, whether it will be released as an almost 4-hour director's cut or split into 6 chapters. This has yet to be decided, but the Snyders are now in the midst of reassembling much of the original post-production crew to score, cut, and add new and finish old visual effects. And yes, maybe bring back many of the actors to record additional dialogue. Now, that's the crazy thing. Bringing everybody back to do this. Like I said, this is all new and a new thing. I don't think this has ever been done before. If I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. Like I said, the closest thing I can think of is the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2. That's the only thing I can think of that compares to this. And this is obviously much different because you can actually bring everybody back, like I said. So I'm really interested into seeing how this takes shape. Everyone coming back is crazy. The other big thing in here, pretty much the rest of the article just talks about the movement and so on, and I think that is worth talking about, but a lot of people have talked about that, and I wasn't passionately involved in that movement. Personally, I'm not sure how this version of the movie will compare to the original, which I think is a terrible movie. I don't think that Batman versus Superman was particularly a very good movie, but I'm really just, if anything, proud of the people that stuck with this, because you guys really are passionate about this Snyder Cut, and you pulled it off, man. You guys should all have a party or something. This is kind of a celebration for you guys. I don't think this has ever been done, and kudos, man. I think that's great. I'm excited to watch it. I think that they will maximize the most content they can get out of this. So some 6-hour version of the film turned into a miniseries on HBO Max, I don't think is that far from reality. It will at least be a 4-hour theatrical movie or theatrical version of the movie put on there. I think the chapters would be a wiser idea, and release them weekly. That will maximize the people talking about the show and stuff like that. But we'll see what happens. But either way, bravo to the movement, and I'm really looking forward to this. I can't wait to see what happens. Anyway, give me your thoughts on this. I'd like to hear from you guys, especially if you've been passionate about this. Why do you think it'll be better? Please give me your thoughts. Also, if you would, throw a like up, share the video, make sure you hit that notification bell. And make sure you're still subscribed if you're new, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace. Also, if you want to help support the channel, check out my Teespring store. There's a link in the description. You can find some merchandise in there that you might want to check out. Also, take a moment. Make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. There's something going on right now, and they've been unsubscribing people. So just take a second and double check on that, and subscribe if you're new.